Georgia playing a team of fairly equal talent, and CJ Stroud answering every critic of his play. Like in every way we've criticized CJ Stroud, he answered. It felt like there were like 10 individual plays that were direct responses to a criticism of him that has been lobbed over the last month.
Yeah, the funniest one being a 20-ish yard rush to get them into field goal range when they started a drive with less than
27
yards. Jeez.
Yes. It was unbelievable.
Was it the longest rush of his Ohio State career?
When they scored the touchdown, when Stetson Bennett hit A.D. Mitchell for that touchdown, which was huge. A.D. Mitchell came back from injury in this game, and he had played a little bit in the SEC championship game, but he'd been hurt, and they didn't do it much with him. So that catch was the biggest catch he'd made since the touchdown in the national title game last year. So he makes that catch. There's 54 seconds left, and everybody in the press box, and everybody in the stands, and everybody on their couch, and everybody on a bar stool was going, "That's too much time." 54 seconds felt like a month for CJ Stroud to get them into field goal range.
Yeah, and they probably could have gotten a little bit closer too at the end there. I know there's going to be a lot of people who criticize Ryan Day for, maybe not trying to get more yardage to set up a more manageable kick. But I thought he coached his ass off in that game. And the point that I made, like, listen, first I got to say, I didn't give Ohio State a shot in hell to win that football game, and I was clearly wrong about it. The second thing I want to say is that's exactly what the column that I wrote meant 2.5 weeks ago when Georgia got matched up with Ohio State. People were like, they suck. They almost lost to Michigan. There's no way that Georgia's going to sweat with this team. And then they played a national championship caliber game, and Georgia was a field goal away from not advancing because they played a team that was loaded with talent the way that they were, that played well. That said, Ohio State fans are going to try to, point the finger that it was a tough, last 2 games of the year, but Ohio State's best might not have been good enough to beat Georgia's best because Georgia's just a better football team.
But Ohio State might end up being the second best team in the country this year.
Yeah, they probably were. I mean, I don't know.
We'll see what happens in the TCU Georgia game. Maybe that's wrong. But
I want to fight my temptation to do what I've done at every turn, because my gut feeling when I was watching the Georgia-Ohio State game was that this is the national championship game, that whoever wins this football game is going to go on to win it. And I don't know if that's fair.
After watching TCU, I don't feel that way. I feel like that game, Georgia-TCU, is going to stand on its own. And I hope TCU plays the same way they played against Michigan, against Georgia, because if they do, this will be a game. The thing that I'll say about
TCU is that they play so hard. They are so fast. And no matter what's going on in the game, good or bad, they are legitimately there to scrap on the next play. Mm-hmm. And that was, a gift of what great teams have. Like TCU has scrapped all year for everything that it's gotten, and it would be a disservice to TCU to pretend like they have no shot to win that game. And the column I wrote is we have to rethink about how we view rosters and the talent that they have, and hell, maybe TCU is more talented than that number indicates.
Well, I would think so. I mean, TCU's number 32 in the talent composite?
What's that?
TCU's number 32 in the talent
32,
composite.
Yeah.
Is that right? And so obviously not over the cut line of the blue chip ratio, which, our buddy Bud Elliott, I think he's going to have to rethink how that works.
We're going to have to rethink how we calculate it.
Yeah, because what we're going to have to do realistically is what the teams are actually doing. And that's reevaluate. Once a guy goes into the transfer portal, reevaluate where he is. Because if he was a 5-star recruit, but he's done nothing, then you take him down a few notches. If he was a 3-star recruit, or let's say it's like a Jordan Addison, who is I think he was a 3-star, or maybe he was a 4-star, but wins a Biletnikoff, well, he's a 5-star now that when USC grabs him.
It's a very complicated discussion. I don't know if we should blow a ton of time on it, but it's definitely something that we need to talk about maybe in the next week.
That's a great off-season discussion and a good this week discussion. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is
because we're going to have to bring that stuff up when we're talking about TCU in the context of whether or not they can match up with Georgia, because what TCU did against Michigan was really impressive. Mm-hmm. Georgia is a completely different animal to that. Like it's not even the same galaxy. Yeah.
That said, Georgia's defense did not look impenetrable anymore.
No, you can throw on them.
Yeah. CJ Stroud sliced and diced them. And It wasn't that they didn't get pressure. They did get pressure. And I'm the one who's been saying CJ Stroud doesn't look great against pressure because he hadn't.
He looked faster in this game to me.
He looked loose. The play where he gets away from two different guys and runs toward the right sideline and then hits Harrison in the end zone. Like that is a top 5 draft pick quarterback play. Like,
well, I mean, it's even the hidden plays that you don't really talk about, like escaping pressure and being able to throw it away rather than getting sacked.
Yes.
Like he saved a lot of yards and incomplete passes.
He also ate the ball a couple times where he had no hope. And it was the smart play. Didn't try to do anything crazy. And that's why Georgia didn't force a turnover at all. Like that was one of the bigger things in the game. So, all right, our buddy Chris Vanini, our coworker, what is the narrative on Ryan Day now? It seemed this game could define our view of him. What is it after that performance? I
thought he restored himself a little.
A little? A lot.
Well, you're going to go into the offseason with a certain segment of the Ohio State fan base that is going to say no moral victories. You're going to have a coach that lost 2 games in a row to Michigan.
You are one kick away from beating what we think is probably going to be the national championship team.
Have you been reading this chat on the right here?
I know.
Yeah. I mean, people are going to be like, why did he get conservative at the end? Why didn't he try to get more yardage? Why didn't he try to score?
They didn't get conservative. They threw a couple times after they got to the 31. They were trying.
Look at here.
Oh, Chase Edwards. He's blown his second 14-plus lead in the playoffs, Andy, against the best team in the country.
Yeah.
You were 1 point different from the best team in the country, and if a kick had gone differently, you'd have been 2 points better than the best team in the country.
So here's what I said
That's
before the game.
That's all you can hope for. That's all you can ask of them.
Ohio State lost all benefit of the doubt to pick them to win this game because it was fair to question whether or not Ryan Day was capable of getting them to play at the level that they played tonight. And the reason why I said that was because they spent the entire previous year fixating on Michigan. And when they played them, it was an unimaginative ass kicking on your home field. So why would I think that with a 3-week period to get this team ready to play Georgia, a much better version of Michigan, that he would be able to put them in a position to play, at a high level? And that was wrong. He clearly got every ounce of what he could get out of this football team. And hell, if Marvin Harrison doesn't go out, then maybe Ohio State gets even closer at the end.
It's the whole Jameson Williams going down in the national title game.
It's the second time it's happened for Georgia in 2 years, So I personally don't think that you could sit back and criticize Ryan Day for losing. And the fact of the matter is sometimes you just lose to a better team. And Georgia's a juggernaut. They're a machine. I mean, they're more battle tested in this scenario. So, I don't know. I think that Ryan Day, the way I view him in the direction of the program, has shifted dramatically. And you wrote the column about whether or not, if Ohio State were to blow out or be blown out by Georgia,
it would be very different.
And it was bad when they lost to Michigan because it means you have a Michigan problem. But if you get blown out by Georgia, then it shows that the team that you're supposed to be competing with is in a class of itself and that you don't compare to those things. And Ohio State cleared the fence on that. I mean,
but Ohio
toe-to-toe the entire game.
Clearly was toe-to-toe with Georgia. And that's all you can ask for. And
how many teams in college football, Andy, go toe-to-toe with Georgia for 4 quarters?
Very few. And that was the gist of my column was, did Ohio State have a bad quarter and a half, or were they a soft program? They proved tonight they're not a soft program. They're not. They went toe-to-toe with the team that most people agree is the best team in the country. And if a kick goes differently, they win the game. That's all you can ask for.